Good afternoon and welcome to 12 and a half minutes. My name is Andy Campbell, and each week I provide another dose of hope, information and inspiration on this particular programme. Each week we're joined by extraordinary people from business, from entrepreneurship, and of course this entire programme is brought to you by Elevator, one of Scotland's leading entrepreneurial business and support organisations. We are on social media. Each week we broadcast live on LinkedIn, Facebook and YouTube. So the journey of a startup, the journey of a founder of a startup, it's sometimes never an easy one. And as they grow their business and as they grow their team, how do they achieve success? What is it that they need to do in order to grow a successful business or enterprise? Is it the products? Is it the service? Is it the technology? What do they invest their time and effort in to make their business better? Well, perhaps actually they need to start with themselves. They need to start with their team. Do they have the capability? Do they have the ambition? Are they challenged enough? And one of the things that a team can do or a founder can do is bring on board a mentor or a coach or a non-executive or a chairperson that will really deliver that challenge to the company. So I'm delighted to be joined today by a person who does just that, a person with a fantastic track record at working with top teams and growing fantastic internationally successful businesses. So I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to Brian Williamson. Brian.
Hi Andy, good to see you again.
Good afternoon, Brian. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, fantastic. Been stair rods of rain today, but we can, on a business term, make hay while the sun doesn't shine.
Well, indeed. And you're joining us from your lockdown location, Brian, which is Stirling.
Which is in Stirling, it is indeed.
Good. And how are the dogs enjoying Stirling, Brian? And enjoying lockdown?
Well, they're allergic to rain, but they're enjoying their attention because now they know when they bark, someone will pay attention to them rather than being out the house. So we've got two Westies that are... I'm fourth in line in the house. I've got to go through the door fourth. There's a bit of pack leadership going on here.
Well, I'm sure you'll be coping just fine, Brian. Well, listen, thanks so much for being able to spend some time with us today. We're going to be coming to some questions in a few moments, Brian, but what I thought would be useful for you to give us an overview, a bit of background about your journey so far and your entrepreneurial successes to date. So over to you, Brian.
Thanks, Andy, and thanks for giving me this 12 and a half minute slot, world renowned, I think I would say. I'm brought up by a foundryman and a waitress, working class background in a tenement flat in Stirling. I was a mad, keen sports person, senior boys sports champion, played basketball for Scotland. So I was keen in sport, wanted to be a PE teacher and thought that was, for me, nirvana. I ended up following my dad into engineering and I joined Weir Pumps. Weir Pumps is a fantastic business because you saw ingots and planks of wood coming in the door at one end and pump sets and crates going out the other, and you got to see all the processes in between. It was a fabulous experience. And they sponsored me through Glasgow Caledonian to do engineering. And when I qualified, I came out and quickly climbed the ladder of success. I think I was 21 when I got my first management position, and I worked my way up, and then at the age of 26 left to become the managing director of a company. And I ran companies like that, forming what I thought was a perfectly formed CV, being the managing director of businesses for others for about 12 years. And then at the age of 38, I decided to take the plunge and become an entrepreneur. And I joined a business in the automotive industry. So I've been probably now 38 years running companies at board level and maybe 43 years managing staff. I've sold 10 companies, the last of which was last year, Jumpstart. And if I take you back, that for me was, it was all going swimmingly well until about 2015. I had a bit of a shift change in my life. I had a business I was chair of, recruitment. I also had a business I was the CEO of and a main shareholder and founder in both. And both were making over £1 million EBITDA, so I was pretty well chuffed. However, on the 29th of July 2015, after going through for a routine operation. My wife and I were just sitting in the waiting room, waiting for Paul, the surgeon, to come back, deciding would we go to Marky's and get something for our dinner or would we go out. And Paul came in and said, I'm not going to beat about the bush here, Brian, but if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So you've got cancer. And that was a big shock for anyone, a big shock for me. I have to say, on reflection, it was, when my wife and I both agree, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, which is a really bizarre thing to say. We talked about retirement. I was wealthy enough to do that and fortunate enough to do that, but business is my passion. I absolutely love business, and we agreed that this would be a like saying your favorite thing you do in life, whether it was golf, eating, dining, whatever, you had to stop. So we decided we were just going to change the way we did that. So I moved from being a chief exec to a non-exec, and that really has been where I've been. So I now chair 3 businesses, non-exec in another, and I'm having the time of my life watching others grow.
And that's fantastic, Brian, and clearly a great experience, a really poignant moment with that cancer diagnosis. But as you say, it allowed you to refocus and shift your thoughts onto other things and how you applied yourself in business. And over the years, you've worked in many organizations, you've worked in with many companies, and you've worked with many top teams. So you will really be able to understand the journey of a founder through startup and growth. And it's sometimes not an easy one as they look to grow their team, bring investors on board. But can you tell us a little bit about some of the observations that you see a founder going through in their entrepreneurial journey, Brian?
Yeah, and lots of businesses I've been exposed to and I'm exposed to now, I definitely, especially in the technology space, there can be an over-focus on technology, a lack of focus on finance perhaps, and a lack of focus on route to market and business development. And I see that as missing. However, that's usually holes that you can plug, and especially if you take on investment, that's forced upon you if it's not easily understood yourself. However, there's a good book by Noel Wasserman called The Founder's Dilemma, and that really describes for me many situations I've been in, which is there is often a position where the business outgrows the founder. And I know that it's quite easy. When I moved from chief exec to non-exec, I had to suspend my ego. There's something really exciting about being chief exec of what was the fastest growing business in Scotland for 3 years. So there's something really nice about that. But I had to suspend that and say, where can I now get my value? And my value had to come from my shareholding, which only could be monetized on exit. If it would be better for me to be able to talk about my exit than what I was doing as a chief exec. So I would say my observation mainly in founders is it's a bit like running a relay race. Very unusually can you expect to run all 4 legs yourself and win the race. So there's a time when you have to pass the baton on, and it's just understanding when that is, and that is the founder's dilemma.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's something that we see at Elevator. You get a very capable initial team, but as that company grows and as it tries to scale, you can be sometimes limited by the initial group that's on board, and they have to bring on additional skill sets, additional knowledge, additional networks and expertise. So, Brian, what are some of the benefits of bringing on either a mentor or a non-exec or a chairperson to a founding team?
Well, I think I've been lucky enough, and this is not a promotion for me, but I've been lucky enough to have a very structured environment running corporates for 12 years at board level. So that has given me a structure, and I think someone external can give a structure. It's a different set of eyeballs, which is a good thing. But if I look at, there's a couple of challenges I've done in my life. I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and Patrick, my guide, got me and the other 6 of us to the top with no injuries. Ray took us on a race across Lake Michigan in this boat when he said it was flat cam, and it certainly wasn't flat cam to me. And both of them had a different skill set, but both of them I could not have managed to do what I did without them. Yeah. So especially in the mentoring, look for someone that's trod the path that you want to trod, and that might be Kilimanjaro or across Lake Michigan. But in either way, you want someone that's on the phase of your journey and can understand your journey. And effectively, they're the shortcuts to get you to where you want to go quicker and with your scrapes.
Yeah, and it's not someone that will just necessarily agree with the team. You need challenge. A good mentor or a good non-exec will always bring challenge to the management team, won't they?
Yes, it's a bit about how you frame that, Andy, because it can be seen as you're not good at this. My approach has always been one of, let's examine the evidence that this has happened. You're always late with your forecasts. Can we examine why that happens? Because what happens that you may not know as a result of that is X. And it's really working with the team to help improve them. It's very easy. The easiest job in the world has been an exec in many businesses for many years. The easiest job is just to change someone out. The harder job is to find out what really where's their value add. And often it might mean a case of just refocusing them on something different as opposed to trying to make them into what they need to become to be the full animal.
Yeah, and that can be really tough for a founder of a company, because they come up with the initial technology or they come up with the initial concept. They can take it so far, but there does come a point, it's that founder's dilemma a little bit later on in that journey. There does come a point that almost the business or the business potential or opportunity outgrows the capability of the founder. And that's a tough hurdle for that person to get over. What are some of the observations that you've made in those kind of challenged areas, Brian?
Well, I know if we look at Jumpstart, one of the founders I call the architect, and the architect really came up with the concept and idea, had trialed it in Canada and said, let's do this in the UK. However, if you were in wherever you live at the moment, it's presumably at some point been an architect has been involved. The challenge with that is that, do you really want your architect running your house? Because that's not their skill set. But the architect is seen as the main person initially. So there's a really a need to have an open and honest discussion with that architect, that founder, to say, really, the job that you've done is no longer required. So in effect, you're made redundant at that point. There's the odd time where you can go from bedroom to stock options all the way through to IPO and beyond. And we've got some great examples of that, but one of the best is Mark Zuckerberg. Like him or not, he has done that. That's a very unusual person. And my analogy there is, this is a bit like wanting to, you've bought a Virgin Galactica flight into space and you want to go on it, but you've got to get a taxi to the airport. So Nancy picks you up. She's the best taxi driver ever. She takes you, you board your plane. Wow, who's the pilot? It's Nancy. She drove me to the airport. She flies you, gets over transatlantic storms, and then guess what? You get to Cape Canaveral and you're about to board with your astronaut, and she introduces herself and it's Nancy. It's really unusual to imagine that one person can actually take you all the way through that journey. It's very, very unusual. So it's a case of accepting where your limitations are. Sometimes an external person can help you discover that better than you can yourself.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we find at Elevator is, solo founders can do it. But evidence would suggest that it takes 3 or 4 times longer for that individual to get to the certain key milestones in their business progress as it would perhaps a team. So you're being able to open up your mind as a founder that you need a team of people round about you to really motor the business going forward is something I'm guessing you're supporting quite strongly, Brian.
Oh yeah, I think it was Isaac Newton that said, if I've seen further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants. You just use the benefit of the experience of someone else that's been on that path before. And that may only be to get you a part of your journey. So I'm not saying an advisor, a non-exec, a mentor is suitable all the way through your journey. It may only be to secure investment. And the honest conversation is, you're here to secure investment and then transition to someone that can take us to the next phase.
Yeah. And Brian, Scotland's got a very strong entrepreneurial ecosystem. There's lots of really talented people out there with great experience, but perhaps some might not have thought about mentoring or coaching or getting involved within the startup community. What would be your advice to potential mentors out there, Brian? How can they get involved, and what are some of the guidance that you would give them, or the hints and tips for making them more successful in this particular role, Brian?
Well, mentoring is a fantastic way to, I love business and I'm really passionate about it. Mentoring is a way to get involved in something you're passionate about. But this is when you give someone the benefit of your knowledge, it's rather like on Christmas morning, if you're lucky enough to have kids and you're giving them gifts, you get more pleasure out of giving gifts or receiving gifts. In actual fact, often it can be in seeing the delight in someone's face. So this is your chance to give gifts. And one thing about Scotland is entrepreneurial communities are very philanthropic with their time. I don't think there's anyone ever refused to have a conversation, no matter who that's been, about anything. So there's tremendous opportunities, and there's nothing better than helping someone who you see perhaps as a younger version of yourself. And even if you can help them in a small way, it's so satisfying. And guess what? They'll remember you when they go through their journey.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic note to finish on, Brian, because we always know that 12 and a half minutes runs away with us when we get into the detail. But, you know, clearly a very positive message through everything that you say. And hopefully the founders that do listen into these programs realise the importance of building great teams, realise the importance of bringing in mentors or non-execs or chair people to really help drive that business forward and realise the potential and the success that's there. And of course, if you are in that space and if you do want to get involved, Elevator and many of the other support organisations would be delighted for your support. Brian, as always, it's been a real pleasure. Are you off to take the dogs out for a walk now?
I don't think so. I would have gone off. It's a staying in Friday night. Get the Negronis out.
Sounds like a plan. Brian, always a pleasure.
Thanks very much, Andy. Good to see you.
Well, that was the fantastic Brian Williamson, an incredibly seasoned veteran at being able to grow top teams. And what Brian doesn't know about mentorship is really probably not worth knowing. So do seek him out, and I'm sure Brian will be able to give you a few sage words of wisdom as you look to grow your business. So thanks to Brian. And remember, if you are looking to grow your business, if you're looking at business support, please do visit our website, elevatoruk.com. And if you are in the entrepreneurial space, or if you're thinking about getting into the entrepreneurial space, perhaps as a mentor or coach, please do get in touch. You can follow us on social media. We're on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So please do like, comment, and subscribe. Our time is almost over now, so I think I'll introduce who we've got on next week. We've got Scott's author coming on next week. The prolific Peter May will be joining us to talk about his career, but perhaps to talk about a book which he had put together in 2005, and it was called Lockdown. And I think if anyone has read the book, they'll be able to see parallels with the state of play as we have it today. So make sure you join us next week for Peter May. But in the meantime, have a great weekend and be brave.